Let me speak heart to heart, right now. Because this might just be the moment something inside you snaps awake, not in fear, not in anger, but in the clearest kind of knowing. You ever walk out of a room and feel like your spirit got trampled? Like your truth got smothered? Ever lie awake while the clock drips into morning, wondering, is it me? Am I too sensitive? Let me assure you, you're not too anything. And no, you're not losing it. What you're facing is a narcissist. And there's a sentence, just one, that when spoken, can crack the whole illusion wide open. But I'll tell you now, it ain't a whisper. It's thunder. And when it rolls from your lips, you don't go back to silence. You don't return to the cage. That sentence, it's freedom knocking. But before we walk through that door, let's set the record straight with gospel-level clarity. Their cruelty, their coldness, that's not about you. It never was. The narcissist walks this world draped in designer insecurity, polished charm, practiced confidence, but under that costume, it's panic, it's scarcity, it's a raging fear of being seen for who they really are. And so they scan the world, not for weakness, but for light, pure, warm, patient light. Because they don't chase after the broken, they chase after the brave, after the kind-hearted, after the ones who still hope love can heal. Why? Because kindness is easier to twist, empathy's easier to mold, and patience is their playground. Before you know it, you're bending backwards trying to please someone who keeps moving the finish line. You're shrinking your truth just to avoid another storm. You're apologizing for emotions that were never crimes. And in those lonely nights, you start thinking maybe if you were just softer, sweeter, smaller, maybe then the hurt would stop. Maybe then love would finally arrive and stay. But hear me now, that moment doesn't come. Because the narcissist doesn't want healing, they want control. They don't want connection. They want compliance. They don't want you to grow. They want you to fold. They don't see a problem with how they treat you. Because in their story, you are the problem. That's the script. That's the trap. That's the poison. But one day, maybe today, you stop rewriting the past to make it hurt less. You stop calling the fire a candle. You stop waiting for them to become someone they never were. And you see it for what it is, not a misunderstanding. A method. This was never a messy accident. A tactic. A cold, deliberate game designed to keep you questioning your reality. The cruelty wasn't punishment. It was power. Because what the narcissist breathes is like air. What lights them up and keeps them moving isn't love, it's control, validation, confusion. That's the trifecta right there. They want to script your days, author your worth, control your joy like they're flipping a switch. And when that grip starts slipping, when you begin to stand tall again, they'll weaponize silence, or guilt, or nostalgia, whatever it takes to make you sit back down. The validation is their drug of choice, and your applause, that's their lifeline. The second you stop clapping, the second you say, no more, you threaten the fantasy they've built. And they'll turn that threat into war and confusion. Oh, confusion is their masterpiece. They'll twist your memories like clay, tell you rain feels dry, rewrite the past while looking you in the eye, until you start questioning your own name, just to keep the peace. Because as long as you're confused, you're compliant. As long as you're unsure, you stay. As long as you're chasing clarity, you don't claim your power. But listen to me, child of light, you were never the confused one. You were never the fragile one. You were the one who saw the best in a storm and called it love. And now you see the pattern. You see the truth. And once the veil lifts, you don't go back. You rise. You walk out of that fog like it was never your home to begin with. Because healing doesn't ask for permission. It just begins. You don't need their permission to be whole. You don't need their approval to breathe deep again. And you sure don't need their version of love. That knockoff kind, wrapped in guilt and tied with confusion. What you do need is to remember. To remember who you were before the noise. Before the gaslighting. Before the long, slow erosion of your fire. Because the narcissist hopes you'll forget. That's their plan. That's their currency. Your forgetfulness. Because the moment you remember, everything changes. Let me give you the truth they hope you never grasp. Their power only works on the part of you still waiting for change. The part of you still holding out hope, still trying to earn love that, let's be honest, should have never had a price tag. But oh, when your eyes finally cut through the fog. When you stop calling it miscommunication, and start calling it manipulation. That's the moment heaven opens up, and the chains begin to shake. And here it is, the pivot point, the moment the sky splits, when you stop feeding their addiction to your reactions. Because that's what it is, A craving. They don't want peace, they want a high, they want power. Your heartbreak. That's their standing ovation. Your confusion, their oxygen. Your silence, when soaked in agony, that's proof they still own the script. So what do? You learn the holy stillness of detachment. Not numbness. Not shutting down. No, this is different. This is sacred defiance. You speak slow, calm, you don't shaken. You glow. You don't argue, you exit. And you build a boundary like you're Moses with a stone tablet. Because detachment isn't about building walls. It's about building gates. And this gate, it swings closed with 4 simple words. I'm not available for this. That's it. No drama, no debate. Just truth. And when you say it, when your soul really means it, something shifts in the atmosphere. That mask they wear, it starts to crack. That illusion of control, it shudders. They'll try to claw their way back in pleading, accusing. Why are you so cold? Don't you care? You've changed? Yes, you have. And thank God for that. Because now, you're not their echo. You're not their mirror. You're not a puppet stitched together by their moods and opinions. You're not available. And hear this like a thunderclap. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You don't have to justify your sanity to someone who profits off your chaos. You don't have to translate your boundaries into a language they'll respect. Because they never respected your heart to begin with. That sentence, I'm not available for this, isn't just a line. It's a resurrection. It's you stepping out of the grave they tried to keep you in. It's you refusing to perform in their theater of control. It's you walking barefoot across the broken glass and saying, I won't bleed for you anymore. Let them tremble. Because your job, listen to me, is not to be understood by someone devoted to misunderstanding you. Your mission is not to heal the storm inside the narcissist. Your soul was not made to be a sponge for rage or a decoder for silence or a dancer on eggshells. No more. You were made for peace. For light, for truth that stands tall, even when the winds howl. Your sacred task, your divine, unwavering assignment, is this. Protect your peace like it's the last candle in the dark. Guard it like a temple lit by truth. And when you look that narcissist in the eye, steady, clear, heart unshaken, and you speak the words, I'm not available for this conversation, something unseen begins to quake. You won't see fireworks. You might not even hear a sound. But the atmosphere changes. The game rewrites itself. The strings they've yanked for so long, they go limp. Because, when that sentence is spoken, not once, not as a trick but as a lifestyle, you're not drawing a line in the sand. You're building a fortress out of your worth. A wall built not from bricks of bitterness, but from sacred dignity. And that wall, it's too high for manipulation to scale. You're not asking for permission anymore. You're not performing to earn crumbs of care. You're not explaining why your soul deserves rest. You're just being. And they feel that. Oh, how they feel it. Because the fuel they once ran on, your panic, your explanations, your emotional surrender, has dried up. And now, they're left with the echo of their own emptiness. Let me tell you something raw and real about the narcissist. They don't fear your anger. They don't mind your tears. They don't even blink when you slam the door. But your stillness, your calm, your steady refusal to play the game, that shakes them. Because they can't manipulate silence. They can't twist peace. They can't control what they no longer own. They end when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to make them see your heart, when you stop proving your humanity to someone who treats your soul like a challenge. Everything changes. That one line, it's not just a sentence, it's a stand. It's you stepping out of their arena, laying down your sword, and saying, I'm not here for your chaos anymore. And make no mistake, they'll try again. They'll shift, they'll come with tears, with guilt, with sugar-coated apologies. They'll say, you're not the same. And they're right. You're not the same. You're stronger. You're quieter, not because you're broken, but because you're done. You've moved from survival to clarity, from chaos to calm, from being pulled apart to being pulled together. And when they whimper, you're so hard to talk to now. What they really mean is, I can't get into your head anymore. Let that sentence be your confirmation. Let that sentence be your badge of victory. Because every time you say, I'm not available for this, you're chiseling a new story, one where your worth isn't debated, one where your peace isn't borrowed, one where your soul is not up for sale. You're done explaining boundaries to people who only show up to cross them. You're done calling dysfunction love, because you got used to the sound. That you're done watering soil that's never grown anything but confusion. You've walked off their stage. You're not part of their act anymore. You are the author now, and this chapter, this sacred, rising, radiant chapter, it's called freedom. So say the words. Say them in love, say them in boldness, say them with heaven roaring behind you. I'm not available for this conversation. And let that be your turning point. Not because you screamed louder, not because you argued better, but because you stood still and walked away with your soul intact.